I'm really honored to be on this stage with such brilliant people. Professor Purcell, Professor Scott, my mentor, some friends of mine, and my smart aleck father. I'm not as self-assured as he is, so I'm going to read mine, and you're going to have to bear with me on that. One September day, 4 years ago, Dale Mackey and I lay on a blanket on Cleveland Beach doing homework. It was a typical fall day in Iowa, like President Osgood said. Inconceivably beautiful, sunny and warm. A hand-drumming circle was playing nearby. Nate Janica was climbing trees or scaling South Campus buildings. Dale and I think we're probably reading Plato or Marx or Judith Butler, something that made us feel very smart. At a certain point, while we were listening to Ben Folds 5 on little portable speakers, Dale and I turned to each other and exclaimed, "We are in college now. This is what college is." Of course, we weren't quite right about that. Dale and I hadn't yet experienced Hell Week. We hadn't talked to each other through term papers or broken hearts. We hadn't felt the utter despair of eating yet another stale bagel in the dining hall because Quad has no edible food. We were naive, inexperienced first years who had no idea what it feels like to grudgingly cram for a 2 p.m. final that would prevent us from drinking free beer at block parties. Dale and I were a little dim, but I think we were onto something. Grinnell, Iowa is my home, and it has been since I was 4. In fact, all of my childhood babysitters were Grinnell College students, and I'll tell you, they were the coolest babysitters. All I wanted to do was be one of them. In fact, it was sort of a life goal of mine. So sitting on that blanket with Dale that day was a huge revelation for me. I had achieved my greatest life goal. And I'm really sorry to tell this story to my fellow seniors. I realize it might be a little daunting that one of your classmates is so far ahead of you in your life. But it's true. As a kid, I didn't realize this, but part of what made those babysitters of mine so wonderful was the constant investment that their professors made in their learning and their lives. In my experience, the most important aspect of our education at Grinnell is the bond that students create with their professors and advisors. Our professors are dedicated and involved. For example, when I was 7, I ate a little too much cantaloupe at a party at Victoria Brown's house and puked all over her bed. But she still took me on as an advisee. Grinnell College professors see their work here as a vocation, a calling. They savor their jobs not only as opportunities to share knowledge with us, but also as opportunities to continue their own educations as we forge relationships and learn together. I cannot count the number of times I've received emails from Keisha Scott or Brigitte French letting me know about a job opportunity I might be interested in. Nor can I tally the number of times I've seen the light on in Victoria Brown's office in the middle of the night. I routinely caught myself starting to applaud at the end of one of Professor Kaiser's lectures in revolutionary Russia. And when I took intro econ, which my parents loved, my mom came to my job at the health center one day while I was driving students to and from doctor's appointments. I had an exam the next day, which I probably would have failed had she not ridden in the van with me for 2 hours, quizzing me on supply and demand. Okay, most of us don't expect that kind of dedication from our faculty, and she wasn't a professor in my course, but these professors truly do shape our college experience. They challenge our old perceptions of the world around us, affecting us in ways that are not going to disappear when we graduate on Monday, which is tomorrow. We all have our Victoria Browns and Brigitte Frenches. Some students even think of my dad in that way. But don't ask me why. I dropped his environmental econ class after the first day. That's true. Actually, some of the students who would say that about my dad have been close friends of mine. Aside from doing schoolwork, I think this is what Dale and I were discovering that day on Cleveland Beach, our biggest occupation here at Grinnell is making friends. Those friends have profoundly guided our time at Grinnell. We have spent 4 years cultivating some of the most intense friendships of our lives. Some of those friendships even began our first year. My relationships with Sarah, Lou, and Dale, for example, began in line for registration first semester. And some of them have begun so late in our 4 years that we hadn't even expected to make any new friends here. Each one of these people has been essential in the process of our who we are and challenging ourselves. I remember one night sophomore year, about a dozen friends gathered in Dale's in my room on Main 2nd for a study break. Not just any study break, though. A hobo soup study break. You might think this is odd, and you're probably right about that. But each of us dressed up like a hobo and brought one random ingredient for soup. We ended up with a really vile mixture of Spam, SpaghettiOs, rum, I think, and canned peaches. And then we walked around campus, getting people to try it. We even convinced a Prosky's dad to taste it at the forum. That night, we were all hobos, sharing the collective hobo experience, as it were. But during the day, my friends and I are very different people, with widely varying interests and passions. My friend Lauren is trying to figure out how to get young people to stay in Iowa, which you should all do. I'm not, but you should. My friend Ross builds contraptions and makes art. Laura is working on sustainable agriculture in Namibia. Lori Glappa is going to be setting the exchange rate for the San Francisco Fed next year. Okay, not really, but we're hoping to get her on the board of governors by 2010. My housemate Liz and I are just about as different as we could be. Liz is an all-star women's soccer goalkeeper, and I'm the furthest thing from an athlete you can probably imagine. In fact, I hear we have a nice new facility on campus, but I couldn't tell you where it is even if I had a map in front of me. These people and so many others have helped make up the last 4 tremendously rewarding and demanding years of my life. We have all made each other the people we are today. Not hobos, but Grinnellians. Although I have to admit that the hobo thing might come in handy since I'm a history major and have no marketable skills. The week after I received my acceptance letter to Grinnell in January 2002, my mom and I rode on a bus for 20 hours to Washington, D.C. to protest the impending war in Iraq. As you know, that acceptance letter was a really big deal because it meant that I was on my way to fulfilling my life goal. And I was really happy to be almost here at Grinnell. While my mom and I were at this protest, we looked across a sea of thousands of people and saw a huge, huge white banner with painted red letters that read, "Grinnellians for Peace." Overjoyed, we fought through the throng of activists to see if we knew any of the Grinnellians. As we approached the group, my mom and I discovered that not a single one of them, and there were over a dozen people with that banner, not one of them was a current student. Each person had graduated at least a few years before, and yet when going out in public to stand up for their convictions, each one of them chose to go as Grinnellians. It was with that in mind that I started college here, truly ready to embrace the Grinnell identity, and it is with that mind that I prepare to say goodbye tomorrow to this home of mine. Those former Grinnellians in D.C. continue to remind me that despite the imminent close of these happiest, most intense, formative years, we are all leaving here a little more solid and a little more Grinnellian than we could ever have imagined. I am really moving away from Grinnell in a few days, away from my family and away from these friends. But Grinnell is bigger than this